Good afternoon, Central Oregon. This is Josh coming at you with another episode of Apres Chats. Welcome back to episode 2. This podcast is all about skiing, outdoors, and fun. Here in Central Oregon, we like to get outside and play. Whether we're playing in the sun or the snow, on the mountain or on the lakes or rivers, we all like to get out, have a little fun, and come down after a long day of playing outdoors and crack a cold one with the boys or girls and hang around and have some Apres Chats. Today, we're sitting down with my good friend Conner Duffy, where we're going to talk about Mount Bachelor, changes that we've seen up here, ski traveling, and chasing that elusive 100-day club. If that sounds like your cup of tea, kick back, grab a cold one, and get ready for some Apres Chats. Good afternoon, Central Oregon and beyond. This is Josh coming at you with another episode of Apres Chats. This is episode 2. If you are just tuning into Apres Chats for the first time and you have no idea who I am, my name Josh. I make reports. Apparently, that's the way I need to introduce myself from now on, as determined by my friends. But this is episode 2. If you haven't listened to episode 1, that was with my good friend Hannah Matranga talking about her season as a competitive snowboarder, really for the first time, and just talking about her life as a guide in the mountains and everything that she's got going on. But today, sitting down with me is my good friend Conner Duffy. Conner is another Bend local, much like myself, but he can introduce himself a lot better than I can. Conner, why don't you tell the people about yourself and who you are?
Well, my name Conner. I do ski. I don't know. I grew up here in Bend and skied at Bachelor for probably over 25 years now. And just one of the local kids, I guess, that loves to ride up here at Bachelor.
Absolutely. You've got a little bit of background, both as a skier and working at Bachelor. You used to work with MBSEF as a freeride coach, right?
Yeah, I did 3 years with MBSEF on the freeride team, on the development freeride team.
Nice. What years were you doing that?
Oh, I think that was 2014, 15, and 16.
2014, 15, 16. Nice.
Yeah.
Those were some pretty fun years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, because I moved to Colorado for 2 years after that, I think 2017.
Cool. When you were riding, or before you rode for MBSEF, were you a part of MBSEF at all? Had you ever been a student? Did you grow up in ski lessons in that way at all? Or what is your background as a skier? Like, how did you get into this in the first place as a kid out here?
So my dad was a big skier and introduced me and taught me how to ski. And then I started riding with friends. Pretty much in like high school, I met some friends and they were on the MBSEF team and we would ride often and we would ride with one of their coaches. And then they actually introduced me and were like, hey, you're a pretty good skier. Like, we need ski coaches. Do you want to try and do, coaching? And I was like, oh, sure. That sounds great. Yeah. I get a pass out of this. Like, heck yeah. I don't want to buy a pass, especially at that age.
The free passes are nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'll totally take a free pass. And it ended up being really fun. I probably would have stuck with it if I didn't move to Colorado. Probably would have done it for a couple more years.
Very cool. And so then you moved to Colorado, you said in 2016?
2017.
2017. How long were you out there for?
I was out there for like 2.5 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then came back to Bend post Colorado.
Yeah. I had a ski injury my first year there and had 40 stitches in my leg. Yeah.
What'd you do?
I hit a down tower that was a Z-rail. It's like a 4 foot by 8 foot by 4 foot. Like, they set it up like a Z, and I hit the first 4 and then went on to the 8, slid off on the 8 and hit the corner of the last 4th and just split my leg open.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I didn't even realize. I skied down, like took the lift back up and like skied back down. And I was like, my leg feels really fucked up right now.
Damn.
I thought I just had like a dead leg.
Were you originally planning on being in Colorado for longer, or was your plan to come back to Bend, or was it really just the injury that pushed you back here? Or?
The injury, like the medical bills kind of pushed me back a little bit, in a sense of like I was trying to move up into Summit County, which is pretty damn expensive to live.
Yeah.
And you're living with quite a few people because like the drive to the mountains in Colorado is like a 2-hour drive. And that's a good drive. Like, it can be way longer.
That's a haul, especially with
driving
traffic
from
and
Denver
stuff.
up
Yeah.
to 70. Yeah, so it's kind of nuts.
Yeah. Also, I will briefly say, I'm hoping the audio quality all comes out good on this. I know our voices are, but if you happen to hear noises whooshing by in the background, this is our first attempt at recording on location in the Mount Bachelor Skyliner parking lot. This is Apres Chats. We just finished skiing. So yeah, you might hear some cars drive by. I feel like I should note that to the listeners. That being said, you went out to Colorado, you came back here to Bend, but you grew up here on Mount Bachelor. You grew up watching this resort change and grow into what it is today. How do you feel about some of the changes that have gone up here? Are you generally positive about the change? Do you feel a little scorned by the change, as some locals tend to? Like, where's your mindset with the current state of affairs here on Mount Bachelor?
Oh man, answer this one correctly. I feel like
It's okay. No one from Mount Bachelor ever pays attention to my stuff.
that's true. I'm just kidding. I will say I'm pretty torn. Like, some of the stuff is good. It's like Ben's just grown a lot.
Yeah.
And like you notice it in town. There's just a lot more going on. I feel like the vibe of Bachelor has changed a little bit, in a sense of like, it's not. It felt more. It feels. Yeah, I still have like such a good community here that it still feels like home. But there's still like a lot of things that go on throughout the season that kind of like deter me. A lot of times where I'm like, this is what am I still doing here? Like,
kind of feel nostalgic for the way it used to be sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like, well, it's not going to stay the same every season. It's always changing. We do have Skyliner parking lot back.
Thank God.
Which has been nice, but I also feel like it's been super, like, it's more busy than I've ever seen it. Like, even in the spring, anyways. Like, people have definitely like been like, "Oh, Skyliner's where we need to go now."
It's the spring lot. It's the locals lot. It's like where everyone wants to be.
I don't even know if it's really the locals lot anymore.
That's fair.
Just
I guess
so many like
the shift in passes where you can reload the pass that you had from online or pre-pick it up and stuff. It makes it a lot easier for everyone.
Because that's what I'm saying. Like, what I'm saying is like that's a change. Like, it used to be just the locals in the Skyliner.
You had to
because like, if you're going to get a pass or anything, you go to Pine.
Yeah.
Get a pass.
Go to Pine, go to Sunrise, or really anywhere else.
No one really got a pass and then drove over. Some people did because their friends made them.
Yeah.
But now that you can reload passes, it's definitely like an all-out game for Skyliner.
For sure. It is. Like, you got to be here early. I feel like I notice it a little bit less with my lifestyle of just being here first thing in the morning from the snow park, but it definitely can be a little more competitive. But that, I think, also has just come with the growth of Ben. More people in it. But I totally understand the nostalgia.
I'm just hoping we can keep the cool vibes where everyone's having fun.
Always, dude. Good vibes only.
There are some people that get too serious about some stuff.
I've always been confused when I see someone getting in a fight on a ski resort. Yeah. Like, it happens not too often, but especially in the spring, once or twice a year, I'll see people like yelling at each other over skiing. Yeah. What are some of the more positive changes you've seen? Like, what are some of the things that you're really enjoying with the way things have grown?
I will say, I'll go back to the community. We just have a really fun mountain. Like, once you get to know people and you're in, it's fun. You see people every day that you see up here all the time.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of people that are riding well over 100 days now.
We have a massive 100-day club. So it's really cool.
Yeah. I was looking at icons, like, because I can look through their app and where everyone's at for the season. Yeah. And I would say, like, here and Steamboat are probably like the two highest, like, 100-day counts.
That's kind of cool.
For anywhere, yeah.
I dig that. But speaking of like Steamboat and other resorts, you do ride Bachelor a lot, but you also, at least the last 2 seasons, have managed to take some really cool ski trips. You get around and travel a lot, which is really cool. So tell us a little bit about your ski trip you took this year.
Oh man, my ski trip. So after last year was my first year of like dedicating a month, taking off a month and going on a ski trip. And I did it again this year, which was awesome. I still want to continue to do that if I can save up enough to do it. But my ski trip this year, I ended up going I started out at Crystal and I was only going to spend 2 days there, but Snoqualmie Pass got shut down because of a rainstorm and it got too icy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think I was skiing Bachelor that day, and we got like fresh snow, then ice on top of the snow, and it was just this weird crust. Like,
Yeah, I got pretty lucky with Crystal because they just got snow and they needed snow. The lower part of the mountain was pretty bushy, and there's still some grass spots.
yeah,
And I started my trip on January 14th, so I was there on the 15th, and yeah, it was low snow, but it ended up working out pretty good because like staying the extra day, that was probably like my best day at Crystal.
yeah,
I got to hike up and ride like the King, and I went over to I think it's North Boundary, Northwest. It's not Northwest, but North Boundary,
something like that. Yeah,
and then South Boundary, like the two bowls on either side of the mountain, and like all throughout the mountain, which was super fun. And then from there, I went to Snoqualmie Pass and drove over that night of the 17th and skied. So I skied Crystal, and then it was so good that I ended up skiing at Snoqualmie that night because they're open until 10.
nice. 10 p.m. night skiing.
Yeah.
That's rad.
And so I was up there, made it, and I was like, oh man, I'm going to ski here tomorrow morning. But not realizing that I had lost a day and I needed to get to our hut trip that we're going to, which I'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, so I ended up skiing that night, waking up the next morning and realizing that I needed to drive to Mission Ridge if I wanted to ski Mission Ridge. So I drove from there, skied Mission that day, and then drove from Mission to Bluewood, which is like Wallawas. Or Walla Walla, sorry. Walla Walla.
Walla Walla. You were on your way to the Wallawas, but you
Yeah.
stopped in Walla Walla on your way to the
So
Wallawas.
I stopped at Bluewood and skied there Saturday, and then drove from there to Brundage and skied Brundage, and then that afternoon drove to meet up for the hut trip.
Meet up in Joseph, which you met up with half the crew.
Half the crew, yes. Yes.
The other half, we had some technical difficulties getting out.
I don't know if we should dive into that. It might take up the
Oh
half
yeah,
this podcast.
that's for another one. That'll be when I bring Micah on. We can talk about
There we
the
go.
vehicle troubles.
Throw him under it.
Exactly, throw him under the bus, literally and metaphorically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we had awesome hut trip.
Yeah,
on
we
the
were
Wallawas.
the Wallawas for a week.
This was your first time on the hut trip.
Yep, first time on the hut trip. It was super fun. It was good to meet. I met some new people, and everything worked out really good. It went as smooth as a hut trip goes, right?
Yeah, right. There's always going to be hiccups. There's always going to be issues, and you weren't the only one who came along. You also brought yourself.
Yeah.
You also brought Donner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. To honor my alter ego. Just always fun.
Yeah. Good times. Always fun games to be had in the huts. But then after the hut trip, you had a continued kind of very busy schedule for the next couple weeks.
After the hut trip, I drove me and Hannah down to Salt Lake, which was 8 hours, and then I drove another 8 hours to Wolf Creek. And then we stayed the night so Hannah could compete at Wolf Creek in the IFSA 1-star that day. And then after that contest, I drove us to Copper. We stayed at a friend's house for 2 nights, and then skied Copper 2 days. Or was it 1 day? It was 1 day. We skied 1 day, and then I drove us from there to Steamboat. And we stayed in Steamboat for 3 days. And then I drove her to Denver so she could fly out, and I stayed with my buddy Steve. Shout out Steve.
Shout out Steve.
Thank you, Steve. And then from there, drove all the way to Salt Lake. Brought you your skis.
Yeah.
I had his skis from the Wallawas
my personal
trip.
ski delivery service. I had a trip planned to Salt Lake City. So we went to the Wallawa trip, and I left him with a pair of skis that he just drove the rest of the way around the country after the Wallawas. Flew out to Utah, met up with him, got my skis, skied for a few days, and then I left him with my skis while I flew back. Although it turns out your drive back was quicker.
Yeah. So yeah, then I had 2 days at Snowbird, a day at Solitude in Brighton.
Yeah,
We
you
were only
did.
there
You
for
did it that
3.
way. We were there for 3 days. I skied Snowbird the 1, and then got stopped in traffic,
Yeah.
and then went to Brighton, and then Solitude my 3rd day. But you did Brighton and Solitude in 1 day.
Yeah. And talk about powder fever. Like if you've ever tried to go to Snowbird on a powder day on the weekend.
Oh my God! Yeah, tell me about that experience.
I've never seen a snake so long. The year before, I got trapped because the canyon was closed. But this year it was open, and like I was parked at 7:10, and I was out on the road. Like there wasn't any parking in the parking lot. And then by the time I waited in line for almost 2 hours because they opened up Gadzoo.
Yeah.
And I was on
Gadzoom.
Peruvian. Yeah, Gadzoom. And I was on Peruvian, and they didn't open Peruvian because they didn't have patrol up there yet to open that side. And then I got in the gondola line. Gondola. Got in the gondola line. I'm going to say it wrong anyways. And that ended up taking me about, all in all, 2 hours to get up and do my first run.
The wildest part to me, so like, bringing back to locals and the change and the growth in Mount Bachelor, like, I still feel like we have it so good here, and it like takes some travel to see that perspective. Because that same day that he parked at Snowbird at 7:10 in the morning, and then waited 2 hours before he started riding. Even once the lifts open, it was a 2-hour lift line post opening, right? Like, in that same time, I woke up at my brother's house down in Lehigh, and we left. I think we left the house around 7:30, maybe 7:45. And we ended up getting stopped in traffic about 2 miles back from an intersection where we would have to turn and drive 2 miles before we hit where we turn into Little Cottonwood Canyon. And it was stop and go traffic back to there. So at that point, I texted Connor. You said how busy it was, so we decided to bail. We drove all the way around the traffic, up to Big Cottonwood Canyon, all the way up to Brighton, parked on the road about a half mile down from Brighton, hiked up to the resort, got in our gear, and by the time we were getting off our first chairlift, you were getting on your first.
Yep.
Like,
yeah,
that's insane to me.
Yeah.
So you talk about powder fever, and like sometimes it takes 2 hours to drive to the mountain here on a busy, busy, snowy day.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
It's not what I was used to, but it's just the way it is now.
Yeah, right. Things change, but we're still here. So speaking of all those different resorts and all that traveling and stuff, how many of those areas and resorts that you skied were new to you, and how many of these were return journeys?
Let's see. I had not skied Mission Ridge, Bluewood, Wolf Creek, and the Wallowas. Those are the only places that were new.
Out of those ones, which was your favorite new resort of the season?
If we're going off of terrain, I actually my favorite out of those would be Wolf Creek.
Okay, cool.
Overall terrain, the way it's ran, it's a family owned, operated place. Everything runs really good.
That's always
food
nice.
And the drinks were like relatively cheap. I will say that I think Bluewood had the funnest vibes. They had like this little rail jam, and it was just like it's a single chairlift. I mean,
just tiny little resort.
And
I like those
small
little
resort,
resorts,
and like everyone's there to have fun. Like no one's taking anything serious. There's no like big mountain skiers there, or like people that are like, I'm gonna be the next whoever.
Yeah,
they're just there to have fun. Yeah.
Nice. I love that vibe. I'm assuming you're planning a trip for next season.
Obviously.
Do you have any ideas on places you want to go back to, or new places you want to try to go, if you want to go a different direction with the trip? Because you've kind of done a similar loop the last 2 years now.
Yeah.
Are you looking at mixing that up at all? Maybe going further south, or are you looking to return to some places?
My trip might look a little different next season. I'm trying to decide. I don't think I'm going to go like a full month. I think I'm going to spend more time at certain resorts, because like this last one was it's so much driving. Like I literally ski.
Lot, dude.
I ski. I don't really miss many days, even for driving. Like I'll ski all day.
You were gone for a month,
drive.
and you still have more days for the season than I do.
Yeah. I'll miss like, even if I drive 8 hours, I'll ski as long as I feel like skiing, and then I'll hop in my car and drive 8 hours, and then sleep, in a parking lot, and then wake up the next morning and ski all day, and then drive another 8 hours to another spot.
That's a lot.
Which is, quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I think next season I'm going to spend more time at certain spots.
Like go and be a few days in each spot kind of a thing.
Yeah. Either that or do a big trip across seas.
Oh, that'd be cool.
either Japan or Europe.
One of the two.
Austria, Switzerland.
Yeah,
Something like that.
I want to check Japan off the bucket list so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I know every skier does, but like, man, that's high up there for me. But we brought up kind of briefly when you were talking about Bluewood, just the non-serious vibe and no one thinking they're going to be the next big thing and the next hot shit. And I briefly brought up, your day count is still higher than mine, even though you've put in so much time on the road traveling at the same time. Which kind of brings up my next topic. We were sitting on the chairlift a couple weeks ago talking about you were looking at maybe hitting a 200-day season this year, which is something that I've done last year, which was a lot of work. That's a lot of skiing. It's really fun. It's really cool to be able to do, but I don't think people quite realize what it takes to even ski 100 days a year, let alone 2. But then it also got me thinking of kind of the silly arbitrariness and almost the competitiveness of people like us who do those kinds of seasons. Because, there's a point of like, where does the season start? Where does the season end? If you're putting down turns all year, where do you cut it off? And like, we kind of had that brief conversation on the chairlift, but I wanted to, see a little more of your thoughts and insight on like, when you're gunning for days in a season, who are you competing with? Is it with yourself? Is it with other people? Is it, how do you gauge your seasons and like, where's your head at on like the competitiveness of how many days a person gets a year?
I mean, there's definitely some competitiveness in my head.
There's gotta be.
Like definitely, I don't know. It's definitely a commitment. You're up here every day.
Yeah. Especially living in Bend, you gotta drive to the mountain.
It's not, it's not that bad of a drive, but still like.
It's not like living slopeside.
Yeah. I would say my counter just kind of stops. I don't know. We said October. So like when the new one starts is when the last one ends.
Yeah.
For me, I know some people do like every year. So like January, they start their count over.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of get the mix of seasons. So you can be like, oh, in 2017, I did this many days.
Yeah.
Versus like the 2018 or 17-18 season, I skied this many days.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I've always kind of like, I feel like I count mine kind of weird, but like you said, October 1st, it's like when hydro calendars reset.
That's the only reason I go off that is because you told me that. And I was like, okay.
Exactly. You're like, okay, that's the one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's just do it in October then.
It's when hydrological calendars reset. But yeah, so on the 1st of October, I count that as my new season. And because I do turns all year, there has to be some marker for the new season versus the old one. Mm-hmm. But then for some reason in my mind, I have my annual count. That's October to October. But my season count ends at the end of May because that's when Bachelor closes. Yeah. So I'm like, at first when you said a 200-day season to me, I was like, well, you're not going to get that before the end of May. But that's my own arbitrary marker that I put on it. Yeah. I don't know. How do you feel about like the people who only...
Josh, you don't make the rules.
I know. I don't. Like, yeah. Like, where's your head at on like the people who, kind of get uppity about like, oh, well, you skied that many days, but not on this resort but not in this time frame. Like,
we did have someone do that, huh? Where they're like, oh, you're not at as many days as I am because you're not here at Bachelor. Yeah. And it's like, to me, that doesn't make any sense.
It's a silly thing because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
It really
much outside of skiing.
But I'm also like, okay, so if I don't ski at Bachelor, my day doesn't count. Like, don't count that day.
Right. Because I've definitely fallen guilty to the, like, we've been out touring on Todd Lake and I get back in time like, oh, I should get a lap on Bachelor so my pass can scan.
Oh, 100%. I've done that. I did that like 2 times this season.
But at the end of the day, we're doing it for us, right?
And it comes down to wanting to do it for us. I also think it's part of the community that we set ourselves to be in, and the people that we establish ourselves holds us to that standard.
Yeah, like if suddenly I wasn't skiing 6 days a week making reports, I'd be like, oh man, I'm letting them down. Mm-hmm. But them is such a vague thing. Yeah.
It's also like part of what pushes you to be up here every day though too.
It is, yeah. Like when you have these goals.
Yeah. Because I definitely have days where I'm like, I don't really want to ski, and then I come up and ski, and I'm very happy that I went skiing.
Absolutely. People ask me all the time if I get tired of it, but then I get to ride a chairlift like I did today.
Yeah.
But speaking of goals, another goal that you have for next season that I wanted to touch on, this just kind of came up today. We were talking on the chairlift. Beyond like day goals for like numbers of days, I know neither of us are particularly vert chasers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
So what's your goal for next year?
Oh, yeah. We were talking about these goals on the chairlift because I have been thinking about this last season too, and this season. Was doing 100,000 feet of vert in a day.
A single day,
Single
100,000
day.
vert.
Which I feel like if I was at a night resort, like day and night, like night skiing, could easily be
What
more
if we
doable.
could do it at Hoodoo?
Well, I was thinking even if I go up to Snoqualmie,
Oh yeah.
like they're open 9 to 9 or 9 to 10.
Yeah. Hoodoo's 9 to 9 on the weekends. I think Snoqualmie's 9 to 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do have, they're fixed chairs though. They don't
slower
detach, so they're
chairs.
slower chairs, but that gives you more
And
rest.
shorter chairs.
Yeah.
But
But that's one of the goals is
Yeah.
hitting 100. And then
which if anybody out there listening has ever done that, please let me know, because that's an insane amount of vert in one single day, and I would love to talk to you about it.
I have my other goal was to ski every run. Every single run.
I'm assuming you guys can hear that in the background. There's some struggle going on near us. Like I said, we're in the Skyliner parking lot recording an Apres chat.
But my other goal is to ski every single run in a day. But I'm wondering if I should do every single groom run, because that knocks out a bunch of.
Like, not the bowls and stuff.
Yeah, so it's like not the bowls, not the backside.
Well, because the other question I was going to
West
ask
side
you about
bowls.
that one, this again comes down to the arbitrary nature of us deciding what a season is or a run is, or are you trying to go top to bottom of every run, or are you just trying to ski a small portion of each run? Like, are you going to ski like
It would be top to bottom.
top to bottom
Top to
every
bottom,
run in
every
one
run.
day?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I think it would be harder than 100.
Well, there's over 100 runs on Bachelor.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I'm thinking it'd be every groomed run,
Yeah.
because that narrows it down a little bit.
So if you were to ride, for example, if anybody's not familiar with the Mount Bachelor map, this might sound a little like gibberish, but for example, if you were to go ride,
I know what you're thinking. If I go Winoga down to Hemlock and then Pinecone, like I'd have to go down Pinecone.
like if you just ride that upper portion of Hemlock, you have to do that twice. So you can go check off Pinecone because you also have to ride the lower portion of Hemlock.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
And same thing with Clark's J, but then you still have to get the lower section of White Park.
And I thought about
Yeah.
breaking this into two halves, like doing.
East side, west side.
Yeah,
maybe,
it being
separated
Skyliner.
like Skyliner.
Yeah, Skyliner would be like, okay, do the left half or the east half, and then do the west half.
Skyliner's a healthy middle for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the center point of where I'm probably going to park to go up. So.
Right. I mean, you got to park at Skyliner. It's the locals lot.
Got to keep it that way.
Got to keep it locals lot. So the one other question I had for you, that was just kind of an interesting thought, because you ski a lot, and you're always hanging out with like me and Jamie and Hannah and stuff. There's a lot of us who are like kind of pushing for sponsorships and like deals and all these kind of promos and stuff. And you generally aren't doing that. Every once in a while, you kind of talk about it, you kind of joke about it, but you're kind of on this fringe of like, you're not pushing to do like a more pro level thing, but you sometimes kind of are, and you're sometimes kind of involved with it. Like, is that a realm you want to stay in? Is that a realm you're happy living in, that kind of gray area? Is like how do you feel living in that kind of in between space?
I don't really mind it. It's kind of weird because like sometimes I'm like, I should get a sponsorship. Like I don't know why I don't have a sponsorship, and then I'm like, well, I'm like definitely an advanced skier, but I'm not like pro.
Right.
Like I don't think it's not like I'm gonna get sponsored for my skiing. It would have to be like
Well, the video content,
video and an entertainment side.
Yeah.
Of it, and then I'm like, well,
then you'd have to start a podcast, and who wants to do that?
This editing's gonna suck. No, and then I'm wondering like, okay, then am I gonna be like an influencer? Like, is that the kind of style? And I'm like, no. So it's kind of like a weird balance. I kind of want to find an artistic way of like showcasing skiing that's fun, but not to the point where it's like, oh, I have to go jump this 60-foot cliff in order for people to recognize me.
I get that. I'm very happy I found a way to do
Yeah,
that
you have
too.
your niche,
Yeah.
you have your
Yeah.
niche on what you're doing. And I wouldn't mind doing not really something like that, but it's like, yeah, just like expressing how fun skiing is.
For
Almost
sure.
like what Ski Mom does. Like
Yeah.
Ski Mom does a great job
It's the
of just
fun,
having
it's the
fun
goofiness, it's the
and being goofy.
it's the silliness. Yeah.
But
I feel like our crew embodies a lot of that generally. Yeah.
I'm goofy, but not too goofy. I'm just
When
kidding. I'm
Donner
super
comes
goofy.
out,
I'm
you're super goofy.
Yeah.
Jeez. For anybody who needs to see a video of Donner, I'll probably post that around the time I post this podcast episode. Is Donner report impersonation of me. Yeah, Conner was also the winner. I did a Josh Reports March Madness impersonation competition. How did you feel when you won that? How did you feel when you beat that young little 8-year-old girl out to win that competition?
Why do we have to talk about the children? I only beat children. I'm pretty sure I competed against all 3 children.
There was the guy with his kid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's who I first went up against. Was that the first one? No, that was the second one.
No, he beat Imran first. You went up against the young little boy on the chairlift first.
Yeah.
And then you beat him, and then you beat the guy with the little kid. I didn't realize you only went up against the kids.
Yeah, I only went up against the children.
So how did you feel? How did you feel winning?
Luckily, it was all at random, people.
It was entirely a random draw. I did not set Conner up for that.
I mean, I don't feel bad. They're not going to be able to ride on the skis. That was like what I did it for, was the skis, honestly. We were sitting on the chairlift, and you're like, I have like 4 entries. And I'm like, well, if you only have 4, like I might as well give it a shot. Yeah. Like at this point, I was like, I'll just make an entry. I think I put it in like that day before you shut it off.
Yeah.
And I just happened to have my wig with me. No, I put it in my car so I could do the report with it.
He has his wig with him. Is Donner always with us?
I have it. It's in my car. Or did I take it out when I was moving? It's at my house. Never mind. Yeah, I'm moving right now, so I've been clearing out my car every night. But yeah, no, the kids weren't. I mean, the little girl, the last one was definitely the hardest. I went to all of my coworkers and were like, "Hey, do you have Instagram? Vote for me." And like literally would do it for them on some of them.
It was hilarious because I was on a date night that night, and all day I'd been checking, and it was neck and neck in the polls. It was like 72 to 71, and then 93 to 94. And then I went into dinner with my girlfriend, had a nice date, and then when I came out, it was suddenly like Conner was ahead by like 30 votes. I was like, what?
Yeah, it was probably just me. I was like, you know what? Like, if I'm in it, I'm in the finals. Like,
you made it.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
Like, so what? You make your coworkers do it. Like, this is a nice pair of skis.
It's a great, plus everything else.
Skis, yeah. I mean,
skis, a helmet, goggles,
like, yeah,
a jacket, gloves.
I'm emphasizing the skis because
they were what you wanted the most.
They were what I wanted the most, but like getting the helmet was great because I gave it to Imran. You know,
after he smacked his.
Yeah, he like cracked his, so it was perfect that worked out. I mean, the goggles I gave Quinn my old goggles.
Oh, perfect.
So he got a pair of goggles, and then the gloves that I won are sweet.
Yeah.
You know,
custom logoed with your name.
And then I got my incognito new jacket.
I still literally picked you out like from halfway up the mountain the first time I saw you in it. I just know how you ski.
There's still some people that pick me out, but I think I'm still trying to, I don't know.
Trying to hide.
If you get me in trouble, that's probably what jacket I'll be in.
Fair enough.
I don't break any rules around here.
Never have we ever.
Never have ever.
What is so I got just like 2 more questions for you. We've got like a month left in the season as of recording this episode right now. This will probably be airing right around Rendezvous. But Rendezvous's coming up. There's like 5 weekends left in the season at this point. Any things you're looking forward to for the rest of this season? Any things you're excited about for spring skiing, and any things you're excited about after the season?
Oh, I mean, for the rest of the season, I still want to put up my sacred chimes. I'm going to do that, I think, before sometime this week. Nice. I might do it tomorrow, actually. Maybe that's what I do tomorrow. But anyways, yeah, I have all these chimes that I made that I need to hang up still.
Old
Otherwise,
ski pole chimes.
They're going to sit around my house all summer. But I'm hoping to get that out of the way and just ski and have fun. I don't have any goals this season, really.
Yeah.
I had goals, early on in the season. It just didn't seem like the season for me to do those goals. Like last season was such a good storm season, and I like more like big mountain, weird side hit stuff now. And like going through the park is fun, but I don't want to do it that much. And like this has been a great spring season for us to hit park.
It really has.
And so like now I'm just like, I'll
just chilling,
film my friends and have fun.
I get that. I'm kind of in that realm within it when it comes to spring park.
Yeah. As far as the end of the season, like I'm looking forward to doing some other stuff too.
And out on the bikes.
Yeah. I'm ready to get out, ride my mountain bike, do some climbing too. I have not started climbing, which terrifies me because all my friends are climbing right now. So, my climbing friends that I ski with are out climbing, and so when I hop into there, they're probably going to be way above me.
Well, for now, you'll catch up
quick.
Yeah. So then the one last question I have for you, the tagline is always enjoy every day. So how do you like to enjoy every day?
For me to enjoy every day, I just need to get outside.
Yeah.
Take some time. Even if it's just walking.
Just a nice little walk. Yeah. Smell the flowers.
Smell the flowers, yeah. Or the
smell the roses.
Wild flowers.
Smell the roses.
Or the fires.
Yeah, smell the wildfires late this season, yeah.
We got a couple months before then.
Yeah, hopefully. They're doing some controlled burns already, so hopefully we have a decent season with that. But with that, I believe that wraps up episode 2 of Apres Chats. Conner, if you want to give a quick shout out to where people can find you and watch your fun content and your silly goofiness.
Oh man, Duffy's Life on Instagram, mainly where I post. I think it's even definitely life on TikTok, but I never really post on there.
I was gonna say, have you posted on TikTok at all lately?
No.
Fair enough.
No, I've been mostly Instagram. I'm thinking about doing some YouTube stuff. But we'll see about that.
See. All right.
I'll keep you tuned for that.
We'll keep it all posted.
Keep an eye on Instagram. That's probably what I'll post it.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, thank you for listening to episode 2 of Apres Chats. If you like this and you like my content, feel free to like, subscribe, follow, comment, do all the things that help us creators out. You can find me at Josh Reports on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And hey, most importantly, my friends, do not forget to enjoy every day. Y'all, peace.